Good morning, everyone. Stacy Alcorn here, and we are back for our Thursday morning Success Summit program. Today we have Katie Gleboff from RPR that is going to share with us some ideas we can use for killing our next listing presentation using RPR. By the way, before I introduce you to Katie, I wanted to remind everybody that we had Nathan Graham from RPR on last week. So if you love everything you see today and you're doing commercial real estate, check out that program because Nathan goes through an hour program for us on how to use RPR for commercial. You can find that under the Roar Group, go to units and look up RPR. And with that, I want to welcome Katie. Thanks for joining us today, Katie.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So tell us, how can we kill our listing with RPR?
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and let me just give you guys a little bit of background. It's awesome to hear Nate was with you guys for commercial. What you're going to see today is how to utilize RPR under the residential side. And in this new reality that we're all in, or the new normal as they call it, I guess, we want you to be able to use RPR as a tool to close that next listing presentation because, you know, as a tool for realtors, and we are NAR's wholly owned subsidiary company. So we are a member benefit to all of the realtors across the US. You don't pay any additional fees to access this platform. So we really do understand how much is riding on your next deal. And real estate up to a few weeks ago was always really thought to be as a belly to belly, you know, business. And right now we can't get belly to belly. So I just want to be able to share with you how you can use these RPR tools to create that awesome listing presentation, and then how to kind of just share ideas on how to get around maybe that physical ability of being able to get face to face with that seller. Now I am presenting this webinar from the state of Florida. And we are in a, you know, stay at home or safer at home kind of lockdown mode where we're all working out of the house. Real estate is a essential business in Florida, so we are really lucky with that. How are you guys in your state? Are you guys considered an essential business?
Yes, so most of our business is Massachusetts and New Hampshire. In both Mass and New Hampshire, we are considered an essential business. The one thing, we're not recommending open houses. However, Massachusetts, you can still do open houses. And in New Hampshire, real estate is an essential business, but no open houses.
No open houses.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that comes down from our regulatory system, and even with listing presentations, we have to be very cognizant of working with those have to buyers and working with those have to sellers that are, you know, very traumatized by what's going on around us with the COVID-19. So you may have that have to seller and they may not want to let you in the house to view the property. And they may not want buyers to come in the house to view the property, especially if it's owner occupied. You know, every once in a while, we'll get that vacant property where we can go in and we can view the property and look at everything and get really nice videos and show it. But we do find ourselves working in all of these unique situations. So we're going to use RPR to break down some of those boundaries. Now, if you're not familiar with RPR, and we're going to talk about it when it comes to using a listing presentation, be aware that we do have estimates of value, right? And these are just your AVMs and your RVMs. So that AVM is that automated valuation model. It's just a market value estimate that's calculated using publicly available information. If you see a property with an AVM in RPR, that will compete with Zestimate or Bank of America or Chase or any of the, 500 million consumer-based programs out there that allow a member of the public to type in a property address and get a value for that address. We also display RVMs in RPR, and the RVM is trademarked to the National Association of Realtors and Realtors Property Resource. It's member owned, and it only appears in RPR. So the realtor's valuation model is calculated using publicly available information along with your local layer of MLS active, sold, and off-market data. Right? So this is the highest accuracy of any valuation product that's available. And when we talk about the RVMs and the AVMs, I want to make a comment that RPR is what I call a realtor-centric tool. And what I mean by that is you have to be a member of NAR to have access to it, right? So that's one key. And then we do not display, we don't publish, we don't sell, we don't syndicate, we don't auto-notify. So there is no consumer or a member of the public that can see any information from RPR. The only way they get information from RPR is through a report that their realtor would share with them. So it's up to you as the agent and as their realtor to determine if you even want to share the estimate of value information, whether that value is an AVM or an RVM. So you control what that client is going to see. So what we're going to cover today is how to use the data and tools in RPR to win your next listing presentation, to identify property details, to be able to gather neighborhood demographics and review those local market conditions. We'll also touch base on how to use that AVM and RVM in pricing discussions and how to also use that to refine the property's value closer to current market conditions. We're also going to walk through how to create a comp analysis, and then with that, creating that seller's report, which is that listing presentation type report. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And to do so, I'm going to jump right into RPR. This is the residential platform. Now, you guys are already ahead of the game. Your brokerage has become a brokerage partner with RPR. So that brokerage brand recognition is already within our platform. So when you're ready to create that listing type presentation, that brand is already in there. Now, as we get a little bit deeper into the presentation today, I'll share with you how to take that report to the next level with customized pages and your agent photo and contact information and all of that. But let's say we just get a call right now. They're a seller. Maybe they're in a have to sell situation. We're seeing that in our market. People are having to move. They want to be closer to family and friends. Maybe they're downsizing because of the economy that they find themselves in. So they give us their property address, and we're just going to type the property address right into our all properties search box in RPR. That all properties search box really works as a public record search. So you guys have the ability to pull up public record parcels for all across the US. And then for your local market, if your MLS participates, you will get that layer of MLS active, sold, and off-market data as well. So I'm going to type in that property address. I'm going to click on the magnifying glass, and it's going to go ahead and load our seller's property. Now, I do prefer when I use RPR to save any property that I'm going to be researching over time. And this is kind of two-part. Number one, it makes it really easy to pull up. You can save your properties just by clicking this star right here. And these could be properties that you're working with to create a listing presentation. Maybe they're a seller client. Maybe it's a favorite property of a buyer. So all of these scenarios, you can save properties. And what that just allows you to do from the home page you have a saved drop down right here. And you can click into that saved drop down. You will see where you can get to your current listings. But right here are all of your saved properties and all of your saved neighborhoods or saved searches. So all of that criteria comes right up. And then when you need to access it, you can pull it right from your saved properties list. Another comment that I want to make about saving properties, and I'll have a slide at the end, I think, that talks about it a little bit, is our RPR mobile app. And I know you guys are in mute mode and I can't hear you, but use your Q&A option or use the chat option, whatever you have to communicate with comments and questions, and feed those into me. But the RPR Realtor app is really a must-have tool. And with the Realtor app, you can actually set yourself up to get push notifications for saved properties. So if I'm coming into RPR and I'm researching this property, I'm preparing that listing type presentation, and I meet with the homeowner and I'm talking with them and communicating with them, and all of a sudden I get a push notification from my app that says, hey, 47 Regency Drive had a status change. It went from off market to active. I'll get that information as soon as it hits RPR, or if it's a price change for a buyer's property. So I love the ability to get that notification through my mobile device. So that's also why I like to, why I like to save those properties. Just below our property address, we do have our little property indicator that says it's off market. We do have a sold date of August 5th, 2019. So we do know there was a little historical activity. And then just below our off market status, we have our RVM value. So remember that RVM value is looking at both public record and local MLS active, sold, and off-market data to determine that value. We get the basic facts from the property. Now, when we look to the basic facts of the property, we are going to see that it's 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. We get single family residence. We get the living area square footage. This information is coming in from public record data. If we continue to scroll down, we will see the street view as well as the overhead view. Now, our street view is interactive, so you can click right into it. My internet is really slow today, guys, so I do apologize, but it will load momentarily. And when you click into that street view, here it is, you can pan around, okay, to see how that neighborhood looks. And oftentimes we use Google for all of our mapping. Google is not 100%. It seems to get better as time goes on, but there are limitations to using Google for our street view. Number one, if it's in a gated community, sometimes Google can't get into that gated community to even give you a street view. You also have things that can block the property potentially, whether it's like a cable truck or a construction truck. You have bad weather. Sometimes it's an older photo that really hasn't been updated. So if you're going in to create some sort of presentation and you want to be able to override this image for the purpose of your reports, you can scroll down just below the property photo or the images, and you'll see you do have a section for property notes. So you can come in here and say, okay, well, we have a listing appointment at, we could say, what time is it now? It's 10:30 on a Thursday. It's terrible that we don't even know the days of the week anymore. But let's say it's 1 p.m. On 4/19, and we're meeting through Zoom. So I can come in here and say, okay, we have a Zoom meeting at zoom.com /1D774, you know, whatever that silly link is for your Zoom appointment. And it's going to save that. And I can just uncheck this little box and it will be private notes for me. And then if I want to come in, maybe copy this, add a note, I want to send this to the seller, so I'm going to include this one in my reports. And what I like about this property note is that it does date and timestamp every note that you save. So if I want to come back in later on and do a recap of the highlights of our meeting, and I want to be able to share those with the seller, I can come in again and add another note and another note and another note, and they're all dated and timestamped. I also have the ability to upload that image, and this image can override whatever that primary image is, whether it's old MLS photos, whether it's a poor street view, maybe it doesn't have a street view because it's a gated community, but you can come in, and I always say the hardest thing about uploading images is finding them on your computer. So I can find my sample house for my webinar. I can open it. It's going to import it right into RPR. And then I can edit this image and use this for our report cover page, save it. And then this image is what will appear on the cover page of my report instead of this one. So you do have the ability to override that image. And it's about, I don't know, 100 times easier adding an image through your mobile device. Now that our smartphones are so nice with the cameras, it is really easy to just pull open your phone, pull open that RPR app, pull up the property, take the photo, use it as the cover page, and you're done. And you have a really nice camera to do it. As we scroll down below the ability to add our photo, then we just get the home fact information. We get the public record facts information. If you want to add additional information, you can add additional info if it affects the property features. You're going to get your median estimated home value. With this property, we do see a little distressed activity that's occurred historically, so that's something that we're going to want to take a look at doing our research. We get the interior, the exterior details, the location details. We have a little bit of information for the schools that are the property zoned for. We get the legal description, we get mortgage information, and we get deed records as well. So we kind of know there's something going on. We could see a quit claim deed in 2008. So if we have these little flags coming up that we want to research, let's take a look at some of those tools that you have to dig deeper into the property history. So one of the first things I want to share with you to dig deeper into the property history, if we scroll back up to the top, we're going to look to the right-hand side of our property detail. We have our map. We're going to get back to that in just a minute. And just below the map, you are going to see a link here that says historical records for the property. So I can see that this listing was added to the MLS, or this property was added to the MLS back in 2018. So I can click that link that says compare historical records, and this allows me to access that MLS history right in RPR. So I'm not bouncing back and forth to validate those property facts. Instead of having to go to the MLS to look at the MLS information, public record to look at public record information, RPR to look at something else, it's all kind of in one single platform. So I can see when the property was listed. I can see it was canceled in September. I could see what the list price was. I can come in and get a snapshot of those historical property photos. This gives me a really good opportunity to look for potential updates that were done to the property and the timeline of when those updates were done to the property. Now, on a good day, when I actually have a little bit of internet, those photos would load, okay? It's, you know, it's 10 o'clock. All those kids are on their online learning right now. We get those public marketing remarks. We get that price change history. Here we get the home facts so we can validate some of that property information, make sure it's correct. We get the room details. This is great. I love how you guys get the room type and you get the size. You have the interior features, exterior features, so you can really get that property history. So that's one tool that you have to help validate those property facts. Another tool that you have is the history tab right here. So we go back up to the top of the property. We're looking at the summary, which is kind of like a little bit of everything. But if we want to go into the history, really dive in, try to understand what the seller motivation is, see what was going on with that distressed activity back in 2008, we can click on this property history tab. And what we're going to see right up front when it loads is our really nice sales and financing activity graph, which is going to show us that fluctuation of the AVM and RVM over time. We're going to see if this loads. There we go. A little bit of lag time.
Mm-hmm.
So here we get that sales and financing activity. We can see this checkered line here. That is that fluctuation of the AVM over time. We can see we had a little financial activity back at the end of 2015. We have our financial action right here in 2017, our financial distress, and then we have some listing activity. If we scroll down a little bit, we could see those prior sales transactions. We have a little radial toggle where we can look between listing sales transactions and public record sales transactions. So I do have the ability to see there was a deeded sale back in 2019. And then in 2018, we had a quitclaim deed, right? We can continue to scroll down. We could see that tax assessment information. We could see that mortgage information for the property. So we could see how much equity they have. And then we get that distressed activity, right? So we could see that foreclosure activity did apply to that current homeowner. So we do get that information where we could see what's occurred historically. I do want to jump back to the home page, or the summary page, I should say, because now we want to take a look at how our market's doing. And we have a couple of tools to kind of get an idea of the market. Where we're going to start is our charts. And our charts is just going to take a look at the zip code that the home is in. So when we look at those statistical values, we're looking for quality and quantity of data. So a lot of the times it doesn't get much smaller than a zip code, but we can see how the median estimated home values are in relation to the list price, sales price versus list volume trends, list price versus list volume trends. All of this information is updated in a monthly basis, so we can see how that inventory is driving those pricing movements. And then we do get a little bit about inventory. So in this zip code, there's 61 properties that are available for sale. And then we get the inventory of distressed properties within the zip code. So these are listed or unlisted properties. This is like the total of the distressed properties. You have about 34 distressed properties in the zip code. Of the 34 distressed properties in the zip code, 3 of them are listed in the MLS. So we have the inventory of distressed listings. And then we get that breakdown of how this house compares to other comps in the market when you're looking at median sales price, price per square footage, age range. So you can really see if this property lines up and if it does have a lot of competing properties on the market, or if it's kind of one that's in its own class. To look at some other market condition tools, we're going to go back to the summary page, and now we're going to take a look at our map tools. So when I go into the bigger map, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, because what you're going to start to see, we get that overlay of our subject property. That's the orange house that we see here. And then we can see all of the neighboring parcels, and all of those gray roofs are off-market properties. The number that you see under those off-market properties is their RVM value. If there's any MLS inventory nearby, you would also see that overlaid on the map. So a blue roof would be an active listing. A red roof would be a distressed property. A navy roof would be a pended property. And you will get to know those statuses and those colors the more you use RPR. But that information gets displayed directly on the map. So we can see over here to the left side, we do have a recent sale. We can click on that to see the sold price, the beds, the baths, the square footage. We have a pended property up here. So we can see a little bit of activity, but really not too much. Some other tools that we have with our map to take a look at market conditions are the heat maps. And heat maps just overlay color schemes to represent data values. So whether that data value is an overlay of the estimated home values, so you can see the fluctuation of the low-end homes to the high-end homes. We are in an area right now where we can clearly see we're right at that $500,000-$600,000 mark. You can see these little pockets where those $1 million and up properties are. You really don't have anything in that low income. Maybe just little pockets here, but not very much at all. You can take a look at that 12-month change in estimated property value. So we can see we're in an area that's had property value, almost a little bit of property value depreciation. So if it hasn't held stable looking from March of 2019 to March of 2020, it may have dropped in value a little bit. And these are markers that I would think you guys in your market would want to pay attention to, because normally, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would think April would start to be your upswing coming out of that winter market, and you would normally start to see property values increasing at this point in time because you're coming into that spring market. So it'll be interesting to see when those numbers come up for April and for May, how this map changes, because it's always comparing that 12-month to 12-month. So it's looking January to January of last year, February to February of last year, March to March of last year. So you'll see how that value fluctuation comes spring from last year to spring from this year. Maybe you want to see that average sales price for your area, so we could come in and see how that fluctuation is on the map. You get the same thing with your average list price. One of my favorites from an agent standpoint is your list price versus sales price graph. So this is going to pop up and we're almost in a clear color. And that clear color is going to be properties are selling at list price at point of sale. You can see very few little pockets of pink over here on the left side or the west side of our map, maybe a little bit to the south side when you get in towards the university. Those are selling just below list price. And then you get these little pockets of blues where they're selling just above list price. And then of course you have your flood zone map. This one always takes a little bit to load. And so you can see that as well. So take advantage of the heat maps. These maps, when you're creating that listing presentation type report at the end, can be included so your client can get that visual of what's going on in the market. I'm going to click to the smaller map, and now we're really going to get to the juice, and that is pricing the property. So I do want to cover the pricing tools that we have within RPR. So the first pricing tool that we have, again, is this RVM value. Now we run that RVM value every 30 days. And you can see just below, I'm going to zoom in on this. The last RVM update date was March 24th of 2020. So you can expect to get another RVM analysis on April 24th in and around that date. It's always going to be around the same date. And because we run this every 30 days or once a month, you're always going to see right here, front and center, what that change was month over month. So going from February to March, we had a little bit of property value depreciation. That could probably just be seasonal depreciation. And then looking at the last 12 months, so you're looking at March of 2019 to March of 2020. We do see a little bit of value depreciation, if you can really even call it a little bit. It's not even 0.2%. So you do see that fluctuation, and you can take a look at that as we go forward now in our market. We're going to go back to that RVM value, and just below that date of when we last ran it, you're going to see a little link here that says view details. And when you go into view details, that's going to open up our RVM, and it's going to highlight some property features. Now I want to point out, you can print this page out. So I can come in, bear with me for a minute. Usually my print control pops right up, but it'll take a second. Come on. Let's see, here we go. We got our print control, right? So normally I could come in, let's say we want to save this as a PDF. I can save it right onto my desktop. Okay. And now I can use this in my pricing discussions. But what this is going to do, again, is just give us that current RVM value. It's going to give us a map view where we have our subject property, and then it's going to give us a sampling of the properties that were used to determine the RVM value. Now, why do we use these automated market values in pricing discussions? Well, we use them because oftentimes, I think now we're up to almost 80% of consumers search for real estate information on the internet before they even reach out to a realtor. So oftentimes the homeowner has already gone to Zillow to see what their home is worth. And you can always pull up Zillow, run the address, and see the value that you get. So this is just that tool that you have in your tool belt where you can sit down with a homeowner and talk about the value and if it's realistic or not, right? So you can come into RPR, you can show them what our realtor value is, which is looking at not only that public available information like Zillow, but it's pulling in that local layer of MLS active sold and off market data as well. So you get your subject property and you get a sampling of the properties that were used to determine the value. Well, why do we do this? We do this because all AVMs and RVMs assume that properties are in average condition and on a level playing field. And as realtors, we know that's not always the case. You can have a property that has had beautiful updates that have a immaculate quality of construction, as opposed to other properties where the homeowner maybe went out and did a IKEA kitchen. Well, both of them may have an updated kitchen. They could have been done around the same time, and the value of the property could be the same, but one did a prefabricated kitchen through IKEA and paid $20,000 for it, where another homeowner had a custom kitchen put in with all high-end features and paid $60,000 for it. Well, the RVM is going to consider them to be equal, right? You may have a property that's in financial distress. It's been vacant for a couple of years. The owner finally has to sell it, and it's just in disrepair, where a lot of the neighboring properties, that's not the case. So you have the ability to come in, research these properties to determine if this property is in average condition, because if it's in average condition, it's going to be right around this value. And we are a 5 out of 5 star confident that this is the value of the property, because in our sampling, the multiple algorithms that they've used or that RPR has used, they've all yielded similar estimates to tell us we're right about this value if the property's in average condition. But what if the property's not in average condition? Or what if our market conditions are not in our normal conditions? So this is really where, you know, you can come into play when you're pricing that property, because right now we're not in a normal real estate market. We are not in the same market that we were in April of 2019. We're in the real estate market of COVID-19. So you have the ability to come into RPR and refine this value. You have 4 ways to refine the value. You can refine the value due to errors and omissions from public record. And I'm going to talk as our page loads. So we use 2 different tools to determine a property's value. We use property characteristics to determine value. So we look at a bedroom, a bathroom, a square foot. We look at similar in nature properties and we determine what the value of each of those characteristics are. We sum up the value based on the number of characteristics to get an RVM value. And we also look at statistical information over time. Well, if we come into RPR and we're looking at public record data to determine value, and it's telling us that a property's 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, and 1 partial, and square footage, that's what we're basing our algorithm off. Well, if this property is 3 full baths and no partial baths, that's going to change the way our value is calculated. So you can come in and say, well, that's incorrect information. And you can adjust those basic facts, and it's going to refine the value based off of local comparable properties. So that is one way that you can refine the property's value. So I'm just going to restore that. Now you can also refine the value based on home improvements that were done to the property. And again, it's the home improvement and the quality of the improvement. So when you look at the list of home improvements, you'll see you have bathroom additions, bathroom remodels, deck additions, kitchen remodels, and these have an upscale or a mid-range option that's available. So we can come in and say, well, they did an upscale kitchen. It gives you a whole definition on what an upscale kitchen would be. You would work with the homeowner to get the improvement date when it was done, what the cost of the improvement was. You can add it, and it does go on to a 20-year depreciation scale. So you can come in. Hanley Wood is our tool to determine these values. They're a national leader in new construction and remodeling. They annualize this stuff annually and at a regional level. So when we're working in a market and you're trying to determine the property and improvements that were done or needed improvements, if you do find yourself with a difficult, or I don't want to say difficult seller, but a seller that's concerned about our new reality, to put it, or our new normal. If you can't get into the property, maybe they have to sell, but they have small kids or they're immunocompromised, get on a Skype call with them, get on a FaceTime call with them, and have them give you that walkthrough tour of the property. Tell them to open windows, tell them to open up sliding glass doors, open up those kitchen cabinets, check those soft tin closures, open up the garage door to get height, have them measure and compare wall lengths to other structures in the home. Have them turn on lights, have them show you the paperwork for when they've done improvements. You can do that walkthrough in a virtual environment fairly easy just through your mobile phone now. So jump on that phone call, get on those refinements. And if you come in and you're walking through the property and you ask them to open up that garage door and they say, oh, well, about that, you know, my teenage son went in and pulled this and broke this thing, and we just haven't had a chance to get it fixed. So if you're coming in saying, well, you need to replace the garage door motor, and if they broke a window, you need to replace the garage door as well, and you can get an estimate of that cost, and it's going to be $3,000. So you can depreciate the home's value as well, right? You can add the improvements and you can add the needed improvements, which would show property value depreciation. And then I think almost more important than ever in today's market is refining the value based on market and home conditions. An RVM or an AVM for that matter, either of them, they don't take into account market conditions when they're determining a value for a property, whether it is an act of God, hurricane, tornado, fire, right? Or whether it's something like COVID-19, where the real estate in some markets really hit the brakes, right? You don't have the same number of properties that are being listed in your market. You don't have that buyer tool. Everyone is very cautious right now, and that's going to impact our local market conditions. So you can use this slider scale to kind of sit down with that homeowner and say, I understand your home is worth almost $700,000, but in this market, if you have to sell, you may have to be a little bit more risky on the price unless you're willing to have those price changes, that longer days on market. So you can come in and use this slider scale to talk about those market conditions and how it affects the property's value. The home interior, the lot size, the view, the privacy, these could all be positives, but you have to talk about the negatives as well. And then you're going to get that overall refined value so you can have that educated discussion with that homeowner. And ultimately, what you want to be able to do is back it all up with those numbers of recent sales, right? So you're going to back it up. We're going to come back, and I could jump into my comp analysis by hitting my CMA option right here, but I want to go back to the summary page because I just like to show you your RVM value is here, your refined value is here, and you also have the option to create that comp analysis right here as well. So they're all kind of one right there on that property summary. So what we're going to do to create our CMA is come in, we're going to do our comp analysis. We have two of them actually. We do have a little video here on what the difference is. I'll show you the main difference once we get through the CMA and our seller's report. Our subject property is going to carry us through as we go through this whole report. Step number one is that confirmation of home facts. Do we have the right bedrooms, the bathrooms, the living area, the lot size? Maybe we want to come in here and put the garage with the number of spaces. If there is that unique property feature, we can come in and add that property. So maybe we want to come in here, and I want to type in something about the community. I'm going to add it, and I'm going to come in and note that it's a gated community. So if there is that unique property feature, that unique neighborhood feature, you want to add it for the purpose of your CMA, you can do that. The next thing that we're going to do is find those comps. Again, subject property follows us. If you want to add a known property, you can type in, I suggest using the property address. It's much easier than the MLS ID number. You hit that add, and RPR is going to search for the match on the address. You confirm that you have the right one, and it's going to throw it into your comps. Then you can always come back and search the area for several properties. It's going to mirror your property type. Single family to single family, condo to condo, townhouse to townhouse. You're going to get your sold. You also have a keyword here. If your subject property has a unique property feature and you want all of your comps to have that unique feature, you can add that keyword into your CMA to make sure all comps have that. You can look for solds within the last 6 months. You can go 12, 18, 3 months back, last month, last week. You can also change the radial button to date range if you want to use your calendar dates to go back a specific timeline. And then you get that differential on the beds, the baths, the living area are pre-selected. You can change any of these numbers if you want to. If you want to include additional things like lot size, price range, price per square foot, you can check those boxes. If you want to exclude features, go ahead and check those boxes. Then you're just going to go ahead and do your search. Your search area is this map that we see here. Now you can go in and draw a radius if you want it to be within a half mile of your subject property, but I just love using the map because when you hit this search on the bottom, all of the comps pop up. So I can see our subject property here, and then I can just work my way out. And just within the map, I can come in and say, okay, I want to use this as a comparable property. And I can make my comparable selections just by looking within the map, but I can also scroll down and make my comparable selections from here as well. Now you can sort by address, by proximity, by days on market, by sold date, by amount, by square footage. So you can come in and add all of these properties to your CMA. Once you get your properties added, you're going to come in and update your evaluation and close. Step number 3 is making adjustments to your comparable property. You can change this a little bit. I'm going to put this one first because it's the most recent sold. I always like to enlarge the photos. I like to make sure the first photo is the front exterior view so you can swipe through if you want to line up all of your images. And then we're just going to come down and we're going to rate our comps compared to the subject property, excluding square footage. So we're really just coming in saying, all right, well, for whatever reason, this property is a little bit worse. You're going to see how the impact is on your subject property. Maybe you have another one that's just a little bit better. You're going to see how that has a negative impact on your subject property. These are averaged together to give you the total adjusted result as well as that price per square foot. You can scroll through. You can add notes for your client. You can choose to include those or not in your report. And then you're just going to update your evaluation and close. It's going to go ahead and give you the result of your comp analysis. You can edit this if you want to. So we can go in and say, well, we think it's going to be anywhere between 680, but the highest I would really go for this property is 709, right? And then we can save that and you can sit down and have that pricing discussion with them. And now when I say sit down and have that pricing discussion with them, you can still come into RPR, you can create that report. But if you can't get that roundtable discussion with that homeowner, set up a Zoom. You can do it just like we're doing it here. We use Zoom for all of our training. Your company uses Zoom for their training because that's what we're on. You guys can go to zoom.com. You can register for a personal account. They're free at this point in time. And you can create a virtual meeting with your client. You can get on camera with them so you can sit face to face. You can email them the report, tell them to have it in hand. You can share your screen with them so you can pull the report up on your screen so they can see everything that you're doing with your camera. And you can walk them through page by page on all of this information. And really, after a while, it's just like you're sitting at a table with them. I even have agents that tell their homeowners, oh, we're gonna sit down and have a listing presentation over, coffee and donuts. And they will do a drive-by and they will drop the donuts off on their front porch and tell the owner to bring the donuts inside, get their pot of coffee going. And in a half hour, they're gonna jump on a Zoom call. So they're even spicing it up without actually having that face-to-face contact. So when you come in to create your report, you're going to see these little tips that come up that says, hey, make sure you're going in, you're customizing your agent photo, you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing. When you come into this point in RPR, all of our reports will show you what the sample cover page looks like. The sample cover page has the RPR logo on it, but you will not have that. You're going to have your brokerage logo appear as the primary logo on the report. But you also want to come in and make sure your profile information's on there. And this is a perfect time for you guys as agents to go in, not only into RPR and update your profile, but go everywhere and update your profile. Go to your local association, log into your association dashboard and update your agent profile. Go into your MLSs, update your MLSs information, and you can go into your Facebook, make sure your Facebook profile is complete, make sure your business page profile is complete. Go into LinkedIn, finish your LinkedIn profile, because a lot of people are going to start using this information. So we click on the settings page within RPR. We're going to go through and just go in and customize and update our profile so all of this information appears in our report. It's going to take just a minute to load.
While that's loading, I want to just remind people, I know you're doing a seller's report here, but I've been talking to a lot of real estate agents, and I say, like, right now, if you're sitting at home and you need a reason to reach out to customers, why not send them even just a neighborhood report just to show what's happening in their neighborhood? And I also recommend RPR school reports for when we get back to doing open houses, to have that as like a separate handout at your open house.
That's wonderful. And I'm going to do something totally selfish right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys, I'm going to have a slide for our blog. And we are doing a Tuesday series now. It's every Tuesday. It's 20 minutes long. It's a webinar. And we're going to talk about virtual tools to help you in real estate. So we're going to talk about Zoom and how to do Facebook events. And then we're going to talk about how to work with buyers virtually and how to work with sellers virtually. And in these webinars, we're actually going to share with you how you can very easily use these reports that were just mentioned by Stacy to go through and create a virtual open house. Mm-hmm. You can go in, create your school report, create your buyer reports, create your market area activity reports, go onto Facebook, create your event, share your reports through your marketing channels on Facebook, and go live for that virtual open house. You don't even have to be at that property. So take advantage of these virtual tools. They're all there for a reason. So thank you. I love it. Okay.
How do they get to
I'm going to have a slide at the end with a link to our blog where they can find the presentation and register.
Awesome.
So it's just coming into RPR, though. It's super easy to set up your profile. You're going to go into add your photo. And again, the hardest thing about finding and uploading this information is finding out where you have it stored on your computer, right? Oh, no. And then you can zoom just to show you. You click OK. It's going to pull it in. If you have a team logo that you want to upload, you can upload that logo. But remember, this Lair Properties is going to be your primary logo. So then you have your contact information. If you want to add a title, you can add a title. Your designations and certifications are, as soon as I said that, now my cat is all over my computer. Mm-hmm. So you can come in, you can add this information in. You can add your phone numbers in. One thing with the phone numbers now, and it's a small thing, but I always want to make sure that buyers know they have, or clients have direct access to me. So label that as a mobile number. You know, make sure everything that you have is directed to accessible. So you can come in, you can put your fax number, your email address, your website, You guys can even link multiple MLSs if you have to participate with 2 or 3 MLSs. So that's really the simple profile information. You're going to agree to the terms of use so you can save it and lock it in. And then it's going to bring you right back to your reports page. And then when you go in to create your seller's report or that listing presentation type report, now you see all of that contact information that's going to appear on that title page. Above and beyond that, we have a link here for managing your custom pages. So RPR allows you to upload custom pages for the purpose of your reports. These have to be single page PDF documents, and they can be agent bios, past client testimonials. But one thing that's, I think, really important now, and all I have is a bio, but one thing you should think about doing is adding information relating to the COVID-19 and how it's affecting your market, what state regulations are, why you can't have an open house if your seller's demanding that you have an open house, what your preferred methods of communication are, and that you recommend that your clients go and get their free Zoom account, or that you like to Skype and Facebook. So have a nice communication piece that's going to keep them updated with what's changing in the market due to everyone being in crisis mode, and give that information to your clients so you can add those custom pages as well. So when you come into the seller's report, you do have the option to go into more details, and then you'll see you can use those custom pages, and you have up to 10 pages. Your brokerage can upload 5 documents and share them across the board with every agent in the office. And then you can have 5 documents that are custom just to you. So you can have up to 10. So take advantage of that. Now, our seller's report is really long. You can go through every piece of information and hover over these information icons to look at what the information is. You can also click this little link that says show sample. And that's just going to pop up a little sample report that you can actually thumbnail through to see everything. Now, our seller's report, all inclusive, is about 75 pages. That's a long report. It's probably not going to be that long when you go in and start customizing the content, because you're going to go through and say, hey, I want all the pricing tools. I want all of the home facts and the refined value, but I don't need historical photos from when the previous property, when the property was listed. Maybe you want to have all that historical information, that sales and financing information, that market activity, the comps, but it will include also market activity. And I want to talk about that market activity because this is going to say, hey, seller, this is what's going on in the market with MLS activity. So I want them to see the min price, the max price, the average days on market, the square footage. I maybe even want them to see neighboring active listings if there's other properties competing for the same buyers. But what I really don't want them to see is the pendings, the recently sold, especially if it contradicts the properties that I've selected to determine the price of my CMA. So I uncheck all these boxes. Just, it's not my style to have the pendings, the solds, the distress, and the recently expired in my listing presentation type report. I can generate separately a market area activity report if I wanted to talk about that local inventory. I get my pricing strategy. We have a seller's proceeds calculator. I can limit my property photos. I can limit my market area activity. And if it's a historical property or a home that really doesn't match a lot of properties and the RVM isn't flying, you can suppress that RVM information as well. You can personalize the report with the seller's name. You can enter in that call to action, see you on the Zoom. Add the Zoom link if you want to. You can email it direct to them, or you can opt to download it. Let me just get my email address in there real quick. right? So I'm going to email it. I can hit run report, and it's going to send that report out. Now, one thing I do like here that I want to point out real quick, it is finalizing, but if I click on this little orange circle, when you email your report out, you will see you can download the report, you can share it onto Facebook right from here, but you also see who you sent it to, and you get that confirmation that they opened it, right? And if they didn't get it for any reason, you can resend the report as well. You always have the ability to download the report and send it through your own email if you choose to. But this is just a pre-generated report that I did before the webinar, just so you can see visually how the report looks. The graphs are colorful, it's clear, it has a nice font that you can read. It includes all of those heat maps for that beautiful market area activity. It shares that market health. So you can get on that Zoom call and go through all of these pages. Here's our comps map. Here's our side-by-side. Here's that market inventory with those other actively listed properties that may compete with our property. You get that pricing strategy, the seller proceeds. So it's a really nice seller's presentation type report. So we talked a lot today about getting ready for that virtual listing presentation, using that AVM and RVM and pricing discussions, digging deeper into that property history, looking at that historical information, tax, mortgage, how the home compares to other properties under our statistics and charts. So refining value, we went through that comp analysis. You had that seller's report, data supported reality check. But take your phone out now, take a picture of this slide, because this is going to give you our web address. You can access RPR by going to narrpr.com. You can visit our blog to register for our upcoming COVID series, which is every Tuesday, 20-minute webinar. You can register for those. Just click on the training link on our blog, and you'll see it big front and center. And if you need help, reach out to our support desk. We have links at the bottom. That's my report generating, by the way. It's just that doorbell. There's support links at the bottom of every page.
We have one question for you. One of our watchers on Facebook asked, if you're not doing an actual CMA for somebody, like maybe it's just a prospect that you're showing like a buyer, what report would you typically show them just to show what's happening out in the marketplace?
Okay, well, we actually have, if I can get back to our page, we have two great reports that you can use, and you would really want to pick and choose. Even if a property is actively listed, you still have the ability to create that comp analysis for the prospective buyer to determine the purchase price for the property. When you go to create that report, my suggestions for you would be either the property report or the mini property report. Now, if you're working with a seller or a buyer, and they really just kind of want to know what the bottom line be if we wanted to purchase this property, what do you think a good purchase price would be? They're familiar with the market area, they're familiar with the schools, they're familiar with the neighborhoods, they're what I would call like a backyard buyer. You're probably going to want to use the mini property report, because this is really just the basic property facts, the RVM value, the list price, your comp analysis, those extended home facts, the property photos, the property history, a little bit on the market health, right? So you get the median list price, median sales price, percentage of rent versus own on your housing statistics, and that's about it. But it includes that CMA information. If you're working with a virtual buyer, a reload buyer, they're coming outside the market, maybe they have to see the property or purchase the property sight unseen. They really want the information on the neighborhood. They really want the information on the schools. You're going to use your property report. This one is way more extensive. It does contain the comp analysis result, those extended home facts, the property history, but it's also going to include the neighborhood demographics. It's going to have that household breakdown for the number of kids, the occupation, income, and it's going to include those schools, their grades, the reviews, public, private, charter, elementary, middle, high. So you're really going to get that more rounded view of the whole property, right? So those would be your best two options in that scenario.
Katie, I learned so much in the last hour, so much great information. Thank you so much for—
Oh, you're so welcome.
And make sure everybody go check out those upcoming classes every Tuesday to learn how to become an awesome virtual agent. Thank you again, Katie, for so much time today. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
You guys have a great day. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Thank you.